Scotty, welcome to Manila. My question is, from being undrafted in 2022, what did you focus on, and what was your mentality to eventually becoming a key piece for the Memphis Grizzlies?
Yeah, my mentality is to keep working. I knew my opportunity would come, and I knew I had to be ready for that. I knew I had an uphill battle and a lot of work to do, but I had the right people around me that pushed me and got me to where I need to be.
Thank you.
Scotty, of course, getting to the NBA is already a challenge, but having a name, a bigger name of your father looming over you as well. How do you deal with that kind of pressure, and how did you approach it growing up as well?
I don't really see it as pressure. I think it's, I use my dad as a resource. I think people look at it as pressure. I just kind of use that as an advantage. Just knowing that I have someone that can help me get to where I need to be is which
Scotty, what have you learned from Ja and other veterans that you can carry this season?
I think this Ja's work ethic, the way he approaches the game, he's one of the top point guards in the league. So being around him this past 3 seasons has been, great for me developing as a player. So
Speaking of Ja, with him gone, how are you embracing a bigger role in Memphis?
yeah, definitely it was tough to see him leave, but I think more opportunity for the rest of us there, especially for myself. I think to step into a bigger role and just this summer just being prepared for that, and, ready to get the season started.
Scotty, during your years at Vanderbilt University, you have been teammates with Quentin Milliara Brown. Do you have any memories with him? He also plays here in the Philippines.
Yeah, Quentin, me and him played 2 years together. My third year, he was a redshirt, but really good dude. That's my guy. I was always a hard worker, always a smart player. So that's still my guy. So always.
Scott, your role has evolved a lot. Which part of your game you work the hardest that fans don't actually notice?
Which part of my game have I worked hardest on?
Yeah, that fans don't actually notice.
I would say my offensive ability. I think in college I was able to score a lot more than I do in the NBA, and I think this year, losing Ja and other guys, so I think this, expanding my offensive game.
Scotty, there's a lot of second generation players in the league whose fathers were legends in the NBA. They kind of like talk to each other, get together, and talk about the experience and like Luisa said, the pressure of that kind of dynamic.
Actually, we don't. I think we probably should. I think it's kind of cool that we have a lot of like father-son duos in the NBA. I went to high school with a couple as well, so I don't think we've actually talked about it, but I think it's something that we all share and could talk about one day.
What has been the biggest lessons, I guess, from your experience as a two-way player that you were able to hone yourself into a more complete NBA player now?
I would say just knowing how fast the NBA changes. You could be a two-way player one day, and then you could be a main player and then a star player and a starter in the NBA. So just knowing how much harder you have to work, and just knowing that every day the NBA changes, every day, this game can be taken away from you, or opportunities can be given to you. So just always be ready.
Scotty, what's the biggest lesson you learned from your father growing up, watching him in his later years in the league?
I think my dad's biggest motivation to me was just talking about my work ethic. Just keep working. Even now, he still tells me to keep working. A lot of guys are getting these big contracts and stuff like that. He just tells me to put my head down and just keep working. And I think even when I was a kid and I was getting overlooked, he always told me just keep working. Your time will come. So I think that's the main advice he's giving me.
Scotty, your reaction to LeBron James joining 76ers?
I would say surprising. I think it's definitely crazy the team they're building over there. So it's exciting to see what they do this year.
Can you talk about the situation in the West and East Conference right now? Obviously, a lot more stars now in the East. Being in the West, how do you guys look at yourselves going into the new season?
Yeah, I think both East and West are really competitive this year. I think previously the West has been super competitive, but East teams have won. So I think the whole NBA right now is pretty balanced and a lot of good teams, a lot of good players. So I think it's going to be interesting to see who wins it all this year.
What can we expect from the Memphis Grizzlies this year?
Well, I think we're going to surprise a lot of people. We have a lot of young players, a lot of players that have worked on their games a lot. I know we've lost most of our team since last season and the year before, but a lot of young guys with potential, and I think we're a super hungry team that's going to shock a lot of people.
Your path to the NBA wasn't as straightforward, maybe as other people, maybe, going undrafted and going through the G League. what would be your advice to other players as well, trying to make it into the NBA and maybe getting to a more, not the normal pathway to the NBA?
Trust your work. Trust your work and be comfortable in what you do. Be confident. I think for me, it's something when I was younger, getting towards the NBA path, I would say my confidence would waver depending on how others looked at me and stuff like that. So I would just say trust your work hard, and just be ready when your opportunity and your name is called.
Scotty, the basketball culture here in the Philippines is big. Can you share anything that you find interesting the moment that you got here in the Philippines?
I would say just seeing little kids playing, outside on the street when I was driving in, and then just being around my hotel, just seeing how the fans all knew me, and just seeing how they had basketball on all the TV. So I've definitely been able to see how big basketball here is in the Philippines.
Scotty, you were able to interact with another player named Scotty from the Philippines, Scotty Thompson. What did you guys talk about? And I guess what do you think of him as a person and maybe even as a player if you kind of know him as well?
Yeah, definitely cool dude, super accomplished player. Just hearing all the accolades he has is definitely surreal, crazy to see what he's done here. I think it's also super crazy that he was named after my dad, and we're both here years later. So I think it was super cool to meet someone like that.